friends. This is Twix, and he said, hello. We are here to talk about the books I read in June. So thank you so much for joining. Let me get my camera. Thank you so much for joining me today. And if you're new here, make sure you like and subscribe. And let's get started by looking at the books I read last month. So my favorites. I'm going to start with my favorites. My favorites out of adult read was Wisteria Society of Lady Scoundrels. This was just the witty banter. That was it. It was hilarious. It quoted Wuthering Heights and referenced it quite a bit, which is one of my favorite classics. And just the relationships on top of pirates and flying houses and Victorian England and magic. It was spectacular. Okay, so definitely one that I devoured and enjoyed so much. And then for young adults, the book If He Had Been With Me. This one I chose because of the cover, to be honest. And I listened to it on audiobook, and I was engrossed from the very beginning. And then when you start the book, something happens and you're like, okay, but okay, and then we keep going, and then the ending. And that's all I'm going to say. But if you want to cry, this book, and apparently there's a sequel or a companion. I'm going to read it because I need a sad book. That's it. And then the next one is Pet. Pet is a middle grade story, and it is a dystopian that feels so real. Feels just disturbingly real, minus the monsters and the painting, but the world itself and history. Also, I listened to this one. Highly recommend listening to it. I even always see that others because I don't like the horror process. This is a story that I understand as a character is and it just makes the and this one also has a prequel that came out after that I read the book. I'll talk about that. Those are my top 3 reads. These are 3 reads I recommend to read. They are just fantastic. Alright, let's get into the adult reads.
Alright, so I read some really great adult reads. I already talked about Wisteria Society of Lady Scoundrels. In the same, I think the next day, I had read Romantic Comedy, which is also just a fun read. Those 2 books were just a really fun time. And so I highly recommend Romantic Comedy. I also read Black Girl Call Home, which was a very eye-opening and heartfelt collection of poems about being a Black woman in the United States. And I loved the contemporary pieces in it that touched on some things that have happened in recent history. And just a very, very raw, powerful poetry. Another really important read was Yellowface. This almost made my favorite read, but I went with entertaining. And Yellowface, although was entertaining, the value is not entertainment. It was just an eye-opening call out on publishing and what it means to tell a story and who should tell the story. It brought up a lot of interesting points. The narrator is not necessarily reliable, and she's kind of a terrible person. But there are times, I don't know, I got very uncomfortable a lot of the time, which I think is what R.F. Kuang wanted to happen. And I loved how she did it. I loved it. Women Talking is also another important read. That one is it's based on a true story of women. It was in another country that were in a commune or kind of like a Mennonite Amish style, and found that they were being abused in the night. And they they're deciding if they should leave or not, if they should leave this community where they're completely removed from the modern world and the things that they have to face on, are we going to leave the men behind, even the innocent men? Are we going to leave our boys behind, children? What do we do? All these things. And it was written in a very interesting way. It did take a long time, and it shouldn't have. It doesn't read quickly, but it was good. By the end, it was good. My Heart is a Chainsaw is just a great slasher horror. And Pretty Girls, trigger warnings for both of those, and for women talking. But oh my gosh, those two books keep me up late at night. So
for young adults, I'm surprised I only read 3 books. I love young adults, and I'm surprised. I will say, Heart is a Chainsaw. I know young adult can have the character. And then Bitter, so on here I'll start with Bitter. This is Pets, and I put it in young adult because that's what Goodreads categorized it as. It is probably upper middle grade. It is more mature, but and more violent. But I do think upper middle grade maybe. And again, narrator flawless. I believe I don't know her name, but she narrated I think Desk of Zoe Washington and several others. And I love her voice as well. And I liked this story. I liked seeing Pet's I forgot the main character's name. Pet's name. Anyway, I enjoyed, or no, Pet was the creep. I don't remember. Anyway, the main character in Pet is parents. So that was really cool. I've already talked about If He Had Been With Me, and then Spy X Family Volume 2, which is just kind of a fun manga, spy novel, manga. So, a lot of fun there. All good reads.
Okay, for middle grade, I'm very proud of myself for all the books I read. I read 2 with my daughter, Battle Dragons and Wolf Called Wander. Those were both fantastic. Wolf Called Wander is based on a true story of a wolf, which is kind of cool. It wasn't my favorite book because animals as a main character is kind of hard for me to get into, but I did enjoy it, and it was very sad. Battle Dragons is awesome though, and it's a trilogy, and I think it's going to be, more kids need to be reading it. It's a great book. It was fantastic, thrilling adventure all the way. Takeout was hilarious about some celebrity chefs who come along and are stealing some recipes probably, and this girl is gonna take them out, and I loved it. I love the Filipino Indian food mashup that her food truck does. I love how close to her family she is, and new friends come along. It's just a really good story, and there's even some Filipino folklore in there, which was really cool. Another fun book was Suspended by Jason Reynolds. It's kind of told in verse and prose and has a few illustrations, which were a lot of fun. It's Miles Morales at school, which is just an interesting aspect. The rest of the books, Wild Rescuers, Guardians of the Taiga, that's a Minecraft-ish book. Stacy Plays as a gamer, and she wrote the books, and she also narrated the audiobook. And so I enjoyed these. I'm reading them because my daughter told me, she recommended them to me, and I can't say no. And they are really fun adventures, and there's like animal rescues, which is really cool, and different biomes. They're good books. And so the rest of them are pretty tough emotional reads. Order of Things is book and verse, as well as Land of Broken Promises, and both different ways of tugging at your heartstrings. Great powerful poetry though. Finding Langston was a great book about, finding himself. A boy named Langston finding himself, but he finds himself through literature, especially Langston Hughes, which is really cool. And it's a very short book. It was a quick audiobook, and I quite enjoyed it. Pet, I already mentioned, is amazing. And Boomie's Boombox is another book that I flew through, and it's kind of like a time travel book. where she goes and sees her dad in the 80s. So it's a lot of fun with the 80s stuff. That and Land of Broken Promises had tons of 80s stuff. Um, and just family and grief is a fantastic read. I think that's all of them. As well as I did in June, I am not doing good with my 30 books in 3 months challenge. I've read 3. So, and a month has passed. But thanks for watching. If you made it to the end, please drop a dragon emoji, and take care and happy reading. Thanks for watching.